You're live.
Okay, and Kate, can you just, if Dave tries to log on, can you just like, let me know, so, okay. Okay, so we're gonna get started, everyone. It's a little bit late. It looks like it's 6:04. If we can all stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America,
and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Sorry, that we're starting a couple minutes late. We were getting some rules clarification since it looks like there are only the three of us, which is a quorum, but we just wanted to make sure we were all on the same page about that. Let's go ahead and get everybody introduced.
Rick Hardy.
Dave Vogt.
Julie Johnson, chairperson.
And Fred Townsend, board attorney.
And we also have present the town manager is also here. And then thank you all. This is a bigger turnout than we've had. I know we have 3 items on the agenda, so I don't know what the interest is, but I guess we'll all wait and see. So can I, first of all, board members, have you had an opportunity to look at the agenda?
Yes.
Can I get a motion to adopt the agenda?
Item motion.
Second.
Okay, all in favor?
Approved.
Aye, okay, so the agenda is adopted. The first item on the agenda is a public hearing for the property at 114 Bellevue Street. I'm not gonna read all the numbers, but it's a request for variance from Chapter 185, Table 2 of the Code of the Town of Dewey Beach to permit a second floor addition to extend 4.8 inches into the 22-foot front yard setback. The request had been submitted by Glenn Mandalis Esquire, and so I'm going to call on Mr. Mandalis to.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Good evening, Madam Chair, members of the board, and Mr. Townsend. Thank you for having us this evening. My name is Glenn Mandalis. I'm an attorney with Brockstead Mandalis Federico. We have offices up and down the state, and in Baltimore, the closest one to this location is on Savannah Road in Lewis. Thank you so much for convening this meeting tonight. I know during the holidays it's a busy time, and getting members to show up and conduct a hearing like this isn't always easy. So I appreciate the 3 of you that were able to make it in here and have this. With me this evening is Christopher and Kimberly Perry. They are the owners of the property at 114 Bellevue. Chris and Kim have owned for about 8 years, and they have now moved down full-time, and they've done an extensive renovation to their property. And we're going to be talking tonight about part of that renovation, which was an addition to the structure. So, Kate, if we can have the next slide. This is the agenda that I'd like to go through this evening. First, we'll talk for a moment about the addition itself. We'll talk about the variance request. We'll talk about some circumstances that led up to this variance request. Then we'll move on to the legal standard, which is exceptional practical difficulty, and then I'll conclude. Next slide. So the property is located at 114 Bellevue Street. The zoning is Resort Business 3, RB3, and in that district, the setbacks are 22 feet in the front yard, 10 in the rear yard, and 8 in the side yard. The addition itself is approximately 210 square feet on the second floor. There's also some first level outdoor storage that was added, and we'll see a rendering of that in just a moment. Next slide. So this shows the addition in yellow. The second floor is the enclosed space. There was some decking up there that we'll see prior to this addition being put on. And right below it is that outdoor storage that I was talking about. So the next slide is an image of the property before the addition was put on. So on the right-hand side of the screen, you can see the area where the deck fencing comes out. That is the area of the addition. And then down below that would be the area sort of right, if the car in the driveway was to drive straight, it would drive right into the area of the new outdoor storage. Next slide, again, shows the property before the addition was put on. Again, you can see where the 90-degree angle is going back into the property. That is where the addition was constructed, and below that, of course, is the outdoor storage. One thing to take note of on this photograph is that all of the facades of the structures that are on that side of the street are significantly further or closer to the street than the area of the addition. That's going to become relevant in a moment because all of those front portions of those structures are sitting within the 22-foot setback already. They were all constructed either before zoning or before the zoning changed to require a 22-foot setback. They're all legally non-conforming. They're existing legally, but they don't conform to the current 22-foot setback. Next slide. So here's a photograph of the property after the addition was constructed. Again, the outdoor storage is on the first level to the right of the stairs, and then the above enclosed portion is the second floor, 210 square foot addition. This is an aerial view of the south side of Bellevue Street. You're going toward the bay as you move left across the screen and toward the ocean as you move right across the screen. The property is sort of right in the middle where the red marker is. This red line is intended to show sort of rudimentarily a established building line. This is where the buildings have pretty much been erected along the street. The yellow square kind of in the middle of the screen, that's the location of the addition that was constructed on the applicant's home. As you can see, it's well behind the established building line. And the reason that's relevant is because we're going to talk in a moment about the fact that the addition actually encroaches into the 22-foot setback. Everything else, as you can see, is already into the 22-foot setback, but the front of that addition also is only marginally. But I wanted you to get a good perspective on what we're talking about, how far back this actual addition is compared to the fronts of the other structures. So what are we requesting? We are requesting a variance because the new addition encroaches the front yard setback by 0.4 feet, such that the addition is 21.6 feet from the front lot line, rather than the required 22 feet. So this is a really de minimis variance. We're requesting a 0.4 feet variance from the 22 feet front yard setback requirement. Doing the math, that's about 4.8 inches. The next slide explains how we got to this need to request a variance. This is the proposed addition plan. This is the plan that the applicants came into Ms. Hink's office and asked for a building permit. The addition is shown sort of in the red outlined area. And what this is demonstrating is that the proposal, when they came in to get a building permit, completely satisfies the setbacks. Remember, the setback is a 10-foot setback in the rear. This accommodates a 10-foot setback. It's an 8-foot setback on the side. This accommodates the 8-foot setback. And it's a 22-foot setback in the front. As you can see, we've got 22.2 feet in the front. So the plan was to fully comply with the zoning code. So they came in, asked for a building permit. Building permit was issued without the need for any variance. Here's the problem. Contractor comes, constructs the addition, and turns out the addition is not constructed as it was proposed and permitted to be constructed. Instead, it moves ever so slightly forward, and now we only have 21.6 feet of front yard setback where the requirement is 22 feet. So I'm really hopeful that when you're looking at this image here, you're saying this is one of the least intellectually challenging variances I've ever brought before you. Most of them involve like layers and layers and layers. This one's pretty straightforward. Contractor got it wrong, very small encroachment into the front yard setback. But as you know, it's my duty to meet the burden. And the burden of proof here is proving that there's an exceptional practical difficulty. There are 4 factors, as you know, under the Quick Check case. But I always remind you that I like the Conway and Conway case a little bit better than Quick Check because it sums it up. And that's why I put the scales there, because deciding an exceptional practical difficulty, as the Conway and Conway case demonstrates, is decided by weighing the interests of the applicants against the interests of the public. The balancing of competing interests is the essence of the Quick Check test. So all we're looking at here, really boiled down, is what's more offensive? Having the neighbors having to live with this de minimis encroachment, or the owners having to tear down this encroachment? So that's the balancing test you're doing. And just to put a button on what the exceptional practical difficulty is, the next slide indicates the exceptional practical difficulty arises from the fact that the structure exists in its present configuration due to no fault of the Perrys, and the encroachment, if not legalized through a variance, would create a greater harm to the applicant than would be the probable effect on the neighboring properties if the variance is granted. So again, just that balancing test. So here are the 4 factors that are required under the quick check analysis. We'll go through each of them very briefly, one by one. So the first factor is the nature of the zone in which the property lies. The property here is in the Resort Business District 3, the RB3 zoning district, where residential, mixed use, and commercial uses are permitted. And just as an aside, the front yard setback for commercial uses in this district is 18 feet. So if this were a commercial structure rather than a residential structure, the addition would not be encroaching the setback because it's an 18-foot setback for commercial properties. But here, the nature of the zone permits residential properties. This is a residential property, so this factor weighs in favor of granting the variance. The second quick check factor is the character of the immediate vicinity and the uses contained therein. Structures in the surrounding area include residential multi-floor dwellings to the east, west, and north, and commercial structures. In this case, the subject property is in character with the immediate vicinity and the surrounding uses, and again, this factor weighs in favor of granting the variance. The third factor is whether, if the restriction upon the applicant's property were removed, such removal would seriously affect such neighboring property and uses. In this instance, as we saw in the images, every bayside property on the south side of Bellevue Street is closer to the front property line than the encroaching portion of the addition. So granting the requested relief would not seriously affect neighboring properties who already exist much closer to the street than this encroachment. And then finally, the fourth factor is whether, if the restriction is not removed, the restriction would create hardship for the owner in relation to his efforts to make normal improvements in the character of that use of the property, which is a permitted use under the use provisions of the ordinance. Again, this is a permitted use, it's a residential use, and the modest addition at issue here is a normal improvement that you see all around Dewey Beach. People are making improvements of this type to their properties. If the variance is not granted, the owners will be required to remove the encroachment, far outweighing any harm created if it remains. So again, exceptional practical difficulty is just a balancing. The 4 factors here weigh in favor of granting the variance, and we're going to respectfully request that you do. As an aside, I should mention, by the way, on the next slide, under the Delaware State Code, there is a provision under Title 22, Section 327. Next slide, Kate, there it is. Indicating that the legislative body of any city or incorporated town may by ordinance vest a designated town official or department with the authority to administratively grant a dimensional variance for existing conditions that do not exceed 1 foot of the required dimension restrictions without the application being considered by the Board of Adjustment. So the state code allows for towns to adopt a provision that would give, for example, Ms. Hinks, the ability to grant an administrative variance of up to 1 foot. Town of Dewey Beach does not have that in your code. If it did, Don probably would have been able to grant this, Ms. Hinks would have been able to grant this variance and we wouldn't be here. So just as a by the way. So a balancing of the interest of the applicant against the interest of the public demonstrates an exceptional practical difficulty exists such that the applicant should be granted the variance, and we respectfully request that you do grant this variance. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Any questions, guys? Do we have anyone else that would like to speak on behalf of this particular property?
Do you intend to ask anyone?
I will. If I could have Mr. Perry come forward, please. Thank you.
You need to step to the podium and get sworn in.
Oh,
And so I should mention that for
sorry,
any of you who want to speak tonight,
Yep.
if you come to the podium, you'll have to state your name, your address, and Mr. Townsend will swear you in.
My name's Chris Perry. I live at 114 Bellevue Street, Dewey Beach.
Mr. Perry, do you solemnly swear or affirm the testimony you give in this proceeding will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Very good.
Mr. Perry, you've heard the comments I've made tonight, and my only question for you is if you adopt those comments as your own testimony or if there's anything you prefer to change.
Oh, no, I adopt those.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any questions for Mr. Perry?
I don't think so.
Okay, could I just quickly for the record, that the change in the construction that followed the approval was not at your direction, I presume.
No,
I think the distance front to back on the improvement might be a couple inches different. That's not because you instructed.
No, he just slid the whole addition like 6 inches forward of where it should be. Matter of fact, we had no idea until the surveyor did the as-built. And I got it and I'm like, oh my God.
He gets a little bit of a twitch when he speaks about it, when he talks about it. So I'm just like, wow.
I have to say, you know, as an attorney, I'm very impressed of your honesty to bring it to our attention, because I don't think people would have even noticed.
That's a good comment.
Sorry, I'm just saying.
Thank you.
I deal with criminals every day. They're not
A little different.
Wasn't an as-built, I think an as-built survey was probably required by the
No,
city.
I know,
Yeah, okay.
I'm teasing, I'm teasing. I just,
Thank you.
thank you. Anybody else would like to speak either on behalf or against this petition for a variance? Jim, you're online, do you have anything to say?
I just want to reaffirm that when we do an as-built afterwards, and I recall looking at the plans myself, and I looked at it and I said, oh my God, they are slightly over. I did speak to the contractor and he admitted he made a mistake. He was unaware that he was looking at a general survey, but he didn't have the survey markers on at the time. And I spoke to Mr. Perry, and there's no question in my mind, Mr. Perry was just shaken by the entire process. And I did recall asking our town attorney, do we have any administrative ability to remedy this problem? And he said, no. That's why we're here today. Had we had that, we would have administratively allowed it.
Thanks, Jim.
Thanks.
You're welcome.
It looks like we have one other person online, are they?
Not reached out chat.
Okay.
Is there him?
Okay, so maybe for one of the other applications. So guys, so I'm gonna go ahead and if there's no more
More public comment.
public comment, I'm gonna go ahead and close the public meeting for this application. And board members, do you have any comment?
I think it's a very reasonable request. It's minimal. It doesn't affect really the neighbors or the neighborhood. I think it falls within the criteria.
I agree.
Very reasonable request.
Okay, do I have a motion?
Motion
To adopt or accept.
Variance based on the,
There would be practical difficulties that it fits in with the character of the neighborhood and it meets all 4 criteria that please.
do I have a second?
Second.
Any further discussion?
No.
Is that, are you okay with that? Okay.
I'm okay with the motion.
Okay, all in favor?
favor.
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, so that is held unanimously, so congratulations, Mr. Perry. And like I said, I mean, I was of course teasing about my comments before about being honest. But since I do deal with criminals every day, all day, it's, the honesty thing is. So anyway, okay, so we're gonna go ahead and move on and feel free, Mr. and Mrs. Perry, to stick around, or if you don't want to be bored for the next.
For the next hour.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So the next item on the agenda is related to 4 C Strand Court, Unit 9. A request for a variance from Chapter 185-60B, Big B, of the Code of the Town of Dewey to add a half-story to a non-conforming townhome with party walls extended into the 8-foot side yard setback. The request has been submitted by Odeon Development LLC and Element Design Group. And so who do I have here to speak on behalf of this application? Thank you.
Hi there, I'm Doug Warner with Element Design Group on behalf of Odeon Development. And we have Allison Flatley here with us, she is the owner as well.
Mr. Warner?
Swearing in, yeah.
We always miss.
I know.
Mr. Warner, do you solemnly swear or affirm the testimony you've given in this proceeding will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
You can proceed.
Again, Douglas Warner with Element Design Group on behalf of Odeon Development. We're here seeking a variance request to section 185-60 for C Strand Building B, Unit 9. which is tax parcel 33420.10-38.00. This is an N unit in a 12-unit townhouse building that is currently zoned NR in this district. I think you guys have actually seen several of these units before. The underlying principle of the request for the variance is that the property line as a townhouse extends from, or the building itself extends from property line to property line in the sideways direction. So the setbacks that exist now are 0, and in the NR district, a 8-foot side yard setback is the requirement. So that's, and hence that is the request as we're proceeding here. These inherently with having, trying to apply the 8-foot setbacks, it provides virtually, not virtually, really no ability to expand the structure in the horizontal direction or even in the volume direction and going upwards. In the plans, you'll see we did provide a little bit of insight as to what the game plan is. Primarily, we'll be converting the attic space into a third floor bedroom space with a deck on the ocean side. We'll be in compliance with the minimum, or the roof slope requirements for 12, and then our area requirements for the half a story.
And your height requirement.
And the height requirement as well, that's correct. We're not exceeding any height requirement that is there, that is currently there right now. If this variance was granted, it would be very similar to a number of units in here. Building D in its entirety added a third floor, had the same variance, as well as units 12, 15, 16, 19, and 20 that are actually in this same building. I'm not an attorney at all, but I learned a little bit from these guys in terms of the quick check, so I would like to at least kind of read those 4 things and go over them to get those on the record for you. Number 1, the nature of the zone in which the property lies. The property is in the NR residential district, and indeed, this is a residential use with townhouses that have been in this district for quite some time. Number 2, the character of the immediate vicinity in the use, the character in the immediate vicinity and the uses contained therein. Its character of unit building B is one of 4 townhouse buildings in this particular vicinity. Consequently, this addition will be very similar to everything else that was done here, so the character is quite in line. Number 3, whether if the restriction upon the applicant's property were removed, such a removal would seriously affect neighboring properties and uses. This particular structure, if the variance was granted, would be just in line with everything else in there and would really have no adverse effect, in our opinion, on the other neighbors that are in here. The height doesn't increase. We're not blocking any views to the ocean or anything to that effect. And number 4, whether if the restriction is not removed, the restriction would create hardship for the owner in relation to efforts to make normal improvements in the character that the use of this property, which is permitted use under the use provisions of this ordinance. If the variance is not granted, the owners will not be able to make any sort of addition or improvement to the property. The proposed expansion is clearly a normal improvement, as we're just trying to get added space to these smaller units that have existed in the townhouses all in this particular community. Based on the above information, we're requesting relief from section 185-60 for an extension of the non-conforming use. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Do we have anyone else?
Do you have questions? Anyone?
Just clarifying, I guess, but since it's an end unit, no extending the boundaries on the outside?
No, sir.
And I'm assuming you said other units in that particular building. Is it going to be essentially the same pitch and kind of character as the other folks that have already done the additions?
Somewhat. There's actually some units like the unit 20 all the way down the other end. They got their expansion of the third floor happened before the 412 pitch requirement came in. So they actually have like a full story on theirs, you'll see. So there's been some slight differences, but we did unit 15, unit 19, and they all had a very similar effect where you're kind of utilizing the existing roof line that's there and kind of building inside of it.
Okay. What about the unit directly next to that unit? Have they done the extension?
Not that I'm aware of, no.
May I?
Yes, please.
Just for the record, I think this group is pretty familiar with that complex because we've heard a number of applications for variances. And I think that's probably why the group's not asking about what the current size limitations mean to the owner in support of the exceptional practical difficulty. So can you tell us something about that? You mentioned that the units are small and the owners are inclined to increase them if they can. So by small, what do you mean?
Yeah, actually, we have a sheet A002 shows the existing square footages and the proposed. So existing conditioned square footage of the unit is 1,282 square feet. We are proposing to add 865 square feet to the unit, bringing it to a 2,147. So I mean, if you look at some comparable units, like I said, we personally did unit 15 and 19, and they're all in that general vicinity in terms of the added square footage.
So you're adding a bedroom, so that takes the unit from how many bedrooms to how many proposed?
Yeah, to be honest with you, what's there now, I think when you guys bought it, it was pretty much gutted, so I couldn't tell you exactly what the bedroom configuration was. But the loft area will have a primary bedroom suite up in there we're proposing. And then the downstairs level will have a kind of like a multi-purpose office room that could be a bunk room on the ocean side. And then the middle level will have a bedroom toward the driveway side with a kitchen, living, and main kind of living and space in the middle floor as well. It's a little different, not just peppering it with bedrooms, kind of making it a little bit more useful for our client.
Second floor, like a little deck out there as well?
Yeah, yeah. And trying to capitalize on some of the there's not a whole lot of, not very many end units there, but trying to really capitalize on that as well. Yep.
Any other questions? We have seen several of these in C-Strand, so
Yeah,
we
yeah.
are very familiar. Thanks, Fred, for getting that clarification.
Yeah, exactly.
So, does anybody else like to speak with regard to this application? I don't see anybody here in person. Kate, nobody's reached out? Okay, well, if nobody else has, from the public would like to speak, I'm gonna go ahead and close the public hearing. Discussion, members.
I think, for me, it's meeting the character of what we've seen before, this changes. But it sticks with the character of the neighborhood. It's, I mean, the improvement is,
That's exceptional practice.
yeah,
Because I can't make an
because they can't,
improvement
yeah,
without
exactly. The improvement
having a
is-
variance.
Yep.
So on that note, do I have a motion?
I have a motion to approve.
Do you need more clarification?
I think so. I think you could, as you vote, just give your reasons.
Yep.
Okay, go ahead.
As a motion to approve, I think it's sticking with the character of the neighborhood and the features in that particular complex. And I think it's an exceptional practical difficulty in this case because there is no way to expand that without the
There.
allowing the variance.
To go up.
And you're convinced that there's a need to expand as well? I mean,
Yeah, I think because they're not really changing the roof line and the sidelines. They're expanding into basically the ceiling and the roof that is there today.
And the original square footage is very small.
Exactly. And they are tight.
Same thing, there is an exceptional practical difficulty, and if they can't do it, then they won't be able to expand it, and they won't be able to improve it. So, and it does stick with the character of what's there, because units, 19, 15, whatever, have already done it. So, they conform to that, so it doesn't affect the neighbors.
So can I call that a second?
Yes. Call it a second.
I think you had a second already.
Yeah, I did
I'm not sure I
Yeah,
did.
that's right.
I missed it if I did, so. And I would agree, I think, we've seen this, the units are fairly small, the only way to make an improvement is to go and go up. And without that ability to go up, creates an exceptional practical difficulty for the homeowners in order to do that. So I will just wait, I know we've there are only three of us, but all in favor to approve the variance with regard to this application?
Aye.
Aye. Okay. Again, unanimously passed for this variance.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. So now I think we're coming to the main event. So our last public hearing for this evening's meeting is with regard to 116 Dagsworthy. A request for, there are two variance requests. A request for variance from chapter 185, table 2 of the code of the town of Dewey Beach to permit the construction of a single-family residence to extend 18.8 feet into the required 22-foot front yard setback, and a request for variance from the same chapter and table to permit the construction of a single-family residence to extend 2 feet into the required 10-foot rear setback. And Mr. Mandalis, I believe, is here on behalf of that request for a variance, so I will let him proceed.
Thank you again, Madam Chair. My name is Glenn Mandalis, for the record, and I'm an attorney with Brockstead Mandalis Federico. As I mentioned earlier, we have an office on Savannah Road in Lewis, which is the closest office to this location. Here with me this evening is Douglas Warner, who just presented on behalf of the last application with Element Design Group. Also here are the owners, Vince Stills and Vicky Petrone, and they are the owners at 116 Dagsworthy. So, as I typically do, here's the agenda I'd like to follow. First, we're going to talk a little bit about this particular building lot. We'll talk about the variances that are being requested. We'll go through the circumstances that lead to our variance requests. We'll talk about the legal standard of exceptional practical difficulty, and we'll conclude. So a little bit about this lot. This lot is located at 116 Dagsworthy. It's got the same zoning as the previous application I presented with front yard setback of 22 feet, rear yard of 10 feet, and a side yard of 8 feet. This lot, though, the interesting thing here is that it's approximately 2,239 square feet, which is a substantially undersized lot, with most lots being in the 5,000 square foot realm. And I'll explain later that, in fact, in this zoning district, you cannot create any new lots less than 5,000 square feet. So this is a significantly undersized building lot. The next slide shows a photo of the pre-existing conditions of the lot. It's the blue structure in the middle that has since been demolished. But this demonstrates sort of the proportionality of what was there compared to what is built on either side of it. This photograph also demonstrates how far back the former structure sat from the actual edge of the pavement. We'll see a little bit later that there's a significantly wide right-of-way along this street, and much of that parking area in front of the blue structure, in fact, all of that parking area in front of the blue structure, is in the town's right-of-way. So there's sort of a built-in setback off of the pavement. So we can see the next slide. As I showed in the previous application, this is sort of the established building lines along the south side of Dagsworthy Street on the bay side. The previously existing structure is represented by the yellow square with the star in the middle of it. And what this is intended to show is that the previously existing structure, where it sat with its front setback and its rear setback, was well within these established building lines. Again, these are not the setback lines. These are where the buildings have been constructed. Some towns use an established building line to set the setbacks. Town of Dewey Beach does not do that, but I think it's relevant to see where the structures are located on the street and where the previously existing structure was located. And the reason that's relevant is because I'm going to present in a moment that the proposal here does not extend any further toward the street in the front than did the prior structure, does not extend for any further in the rear than did the prior structure. So we're keeping the front, and we're requesting to keep the front and rear setbacks as they existed with the previous structure that was there. Next slide. This sort of shows and gets to the exceptional practical difficulty a little bit, in that Dagsworthy Street has an incredibly wide right-of-way, being more than 100 feet in front of the property at issue here. And again, the property is the one with the star located on it. But then, unlike any other street in Dewey Beach, and I looked at every single street, it has this notch that comes in 25 feet, and Dagsworthy right-of-way then narrows. And the relevance of that is that the paved portion of the street, which we'll see in a slide, is beyond that 25 feet and more like 40 feet away from the property line here. So there would be no reason for the town to ever sort of pave or need that area that is 25 feet in front of this particular property. It's sort of, like I said, it's sort of a built-in setback given the way that Dagsworthy Street narrows and has that notch. Again, this is unique to Dewey Beach in that no other street does that. And this is some of the uniqueness that goes toward the granting of a variance and making this property a unique one. Next slide. This is just an illustration or photograph showing that the previously existing structure was in line and in fact slightly set back from the structures that have developed along Dagsworthy. So maintaining that front yard setback would not be out of character with the neighborhood. This is looking toward the bay and the next one is looking toward the ocean. And it similarly shows that the structure is in line with what is developed on Dagsworthy Street at this point. And again, this one sort of shows again that parking area that existed in front of the structure, all of that parking area being in the Dagsworthy right-of-way that is unlikely to ever be used or paved by the town. So our request is request for an 18.8 feet variance from the 22 feet front yard setback requirement and a 2 feet variance from the 10 feet rear yard setback requirement. So here are the circumstances that lead to this request. As I said earlier, this is a severely undersized lot. And at 2,239 square feet, the lot is less than half the size of most lots. And in fact, it's less than half the size of the minimum allowable lot size in the RB3 zoning district. So it would take more than 2 of these lots to get to a 1 standard size lot in the RB3 zoning district. So the fact that this is an undersized lot goes toward the uniqueness of the property and goes towards the exceptional practical difficulty. So coupling that with this sort of built-in right-of-way area that's notched out of Dagsworthy Street, that's what makes this property very unique and supports the variances we're asking for today. I wanted to point this section of the code out to you, section 185-47, dealing with lot area. That section basically says that if there was a deed on record prior to the time when Dewey Beach established its zoning, then the fact that it's an undersized lot shall not prevent the owner of such lot from erecting a single-family detached dwelling or making other improvements on the lot. So the idea here is that the code anticipates there being undersized lots and says, whoa, they're still buildable lots. It's just that they're undersized, so still buildable. And the point of that is to realize that in the RB3 zoning district, all of these laws were set up for 5,000 square foot laws. This is 5,000 square foot lots. All the setbacks anticipated a 5,000 square foot lot. This is not a 5,000 square foot lot. This is where you all come into play and say, okay, the code makers were considering 5,000 square foot lots. That's why they put these zoning provisions in. In this instance, we have a severely undersized lot, making a lot of sense to grant variances to allow for the construction of a single-family dwelling, which the code anticipates. And just to be certain, on the next page, I did trace the deed back. In Dewey, the zoning was implemented in 1982. This deed goes back to 1968, showing that the lot existed, at least at that time, in its current configuration, and therefore the code does anticipate an allowance for a single-family home on this lot. So this slide shows what could be built under the code as a compliant structure. Basically, it's 1 bedroom and a bathroom on the first floor with a stairwell, and then it's a dining area and a kitchen on the second floor without a second bathroom, without any living space. But that's the code compliant plan. Which, I'll mention is certainly not consistent with the normal improvements being made in Dewey Beach today on new construction, single-family residences. Those 2 parking spaces, for example, that you see on the left-hand side of the screen, Those would be in the area that is beyond the parking area that we just looked at in those photographs. So you'd have that whole distance where the parking area currently exists. Then you'd have this additional 22 feet where these two parking places are before you'd even start to erect the structure. Therefore, it'd be set way back from all the other structures along Dagsworthy. The next rendering shows the proposed plan. In this instance, you'll see there's a few more bedrooms on the first floor. The second floor does accommodate a living room or a living area and a powder room. This is more consistent with what's being built. Still very modest compared to a lot of the properties being built today, but certainly more in line with what's along Dagsworthy Street and what is considered a normal improvement in town of Dewey Beach. By the way, the square footage of each of those floors is 1,061 square feet, and that includes the porch and deck. So again, modest, not oversized, but given a lot of this size, this is sort of a normal improvement that should be anticipated when somebody builds new construction there. So some things I want you to be aware of if the variances are granted. First, if the variances are granted, we will rebuild within the front and back setbacks observed by the previous structure. So as I mentioned earlier, we're not going to go any closer to the street than the prior structure was. We're not going to go any closer in the rear than the prior structure was. So it's exactly what everybody has been living with in and around that area, other than we'll go up more than that initial structure was.
Speaking of that, will there be a third floor? Is a third floor permissible?
They are anticipating a third floor, but probably a half third floor for a master bedroom.
Also, does that include where you say that it's the same front and back? Does that include the deck and porch area?
It does.
Or is that just okay,
The
so.
deck and porches are within the previous structure's front yard setback and rear setback. So no further encroachments whatsoever.
Okay.
So just, yeah, because I just want to clarify that too, because it looks, that small house doesn't look as long as this bigger house, so it is the same.
It's not as, well, I should take that back,
Lengthwise.
and I don't have the survey in a slide, but I have it with me if
Okay.
you'd like to know exactly the dimensions. I mean, the front of that previous structure, the blue structure, is just about exactly where we'd be putting this one. It's about 3.2 feet back from the property line. The rear of that prior existing structure did go back quite a ways, and I don't have an illustration of it, but it went back, I believe, to around, it had about 7.8 feet or 8.2 feet, something in that range of from the rear property line. And Mr. Warner may have that and be able to, 7.8. So the former structure was 7.8 feet from the rear property line, and we are not proposing to go any further than that 7.8 feet.
So how close will the front of the house be to the street?
And we're going to see that in just a minute, but it will be about 43 feet to the edge of pavement. From the front of the structure to the edge of the pavement will be about 43
Why
feet.
did it look like it was like 3 feet away from the street?
Let's get to that slide. It's coming really quick.
Because
It's coming quick. Yeah,
that notch.
I'll show you an illustration that I think will clarify that for you. Secondly, we will rebuild within the established building lines, as I showed earlier, and we'll see it on the next slide. There's those established building lines. We will stay within the front and rear setbacks as illustrated by the structure there with the star on it. I want to get to that slide because I want to show you what you're asking.
It's okay. We're patient.
Also, if the variances are granted, the edge of the existing pavement is approximately 40 feet from the property line. So the home will be approximately 43 feet from the edge of pavement, and that's almost double the 22-foot setback requirement. Now, again, this is measured from the edge of pavement, so we're talking about the right-of-way area and not the actual within the property. So the next slide shows exactly what you were asking. So this sort of illustrates the edge of pavement. The gray area is the Dagsworthy Avenue pavement. There's about 40 feet from the edge of that pavement to the blue line, which represents the property line and the edge of the right-of-way. And then beyond that, the structure will be set back approximately another 3 feet. So that gives you about 43 feet from the edge of the pavement to the actual front of the structure. Does that make sense? Let's try and
It
then,
looked like it was 3 feet away from the street.
let's look at this next picture.
I mean.
So here's the
yes,
next photograph. Do you see the 40-foot dimension there?
Yes,
That's 40 feet from the edge of pavement.
from the pavement to the front of the home.
And that was about 3 feet beyond that dash line to the front of the home. So it's about 43 feet from the edge of the pavement.
Okay.
But it's 40 feet from the boundary line.
40 feet from the boundary line. The edge of pavement is 40 feet from the property boundary line. That's correct. But I guess the point I'm trying to make is that there's arguably a built-in setback here because of that notched area in the Dagsworthy right-of-way, giving us that 40 feet distance.
Because with this picture, the new home, where would the front of the property be? In line with the one next to it? Or would it stick out?
The new home would be at the facade that you see on the blue structure, the front of that facade, same facade. In fact, I should say actually further back because that will be the front of the porch and the deck where that facade is. And then the main structure will be set back a little bit off of the porch and deck.
So why do you want 18 feet into the setback? Where's the setback there?
The setback is measured from the dashed line. So the dashed line represents the setback, meaning you'd have to go 22 feet back from that dashed line. And as you can see, nothing that's developed along this property sits back 22 feet. It would be entirely out of the rhythm and scale with the street if we were required to sit back 22 feet.
So the current location of the house is legal non-conforming, and the houses or structures on either side are also likely legal non-conforming because they're on the same building line.
But now that they've torn the house down, it has to comply with the current setbacks.
Right,
According to the code.
Right.
That's why they're.
Any more questions on those issues, sort of how the setbacks work and the area within Dagsworthy?
So could you just speak very quickly to what the public policy behind the front yard setback would be and why it's relevant that the road is so far from the?
Well, it's interesting because it used to be that people like to develop homes very close to the street. You see the older structures in the historic districts, they've all got porches right on the sidewalks. And that used to be traditional thinking, is that neighborly, you wanted to have these porches and everything right out front. More modern day, the structures are intended to be set back from the front property line for all sorts of things, including lines of sight, including, automobile accidents, open space, air. I'm not sure if you're getting into something else, Fred, but that's sort of the public policy in modern day zoning.
So the front yard setback, I think it's the public policy behind that has something to do with reducing bulk in the area of the road. Yeah. Right, and you're saying that the road is further away from the boundary line in this instance than it is in other places, which lessens the
Correct.
The need for regulating bulk.
Correct. Again, the way these properties have developed, it's unlikely that all of them are going to turn over anytime soon and start to observe that 22-foot setback. So thankfully, in this instance, we still maintain that zoning principle or that planning principle of lessening the bulk near the street because of the way that these are developed and because of that wide right-of-way in Dagsworthy Street, allowing for this sort of built-in setback to exist. Next slide. So again, if the variances are granted, we'd be consistent with the rhythm and scale of the neighborhood rather than inconsistent. This next photograph, again, shows where the structure was previously. This former structure was really somewhat inconsistent with the rhythm and scale of the streetscape. Something 2.5 stories is going to be more consistent with the rhythm and scale. And again, if we were required to set this back 22 feet further than any of the other structures are along this street, that also would be out of the rhythm and scale with the streetscape. So again, it just seems sensible here to acknowledge that the edge of street is so far from the previously existing structure that our structure will be in the same spot, and you'll still enjoy that significant, almost 43 or approximately 43 feet area off of the edge of the pavement before you get to the front porch.
Do you know the dimensions of the lot off the top of your head? And if you don't, it looks like.
I'm going to call Mr. Warner up to,
Well, I don't know
he's
if you have to. I think they're 40 feet, I believe, across the front,
40 feet across the front is correct.
54 feet deep on the short side and 60 feet on the deeper side.
Right.
I meant to say the shallow side when I said 54, and 60 feet on the depth side.
Yep, this is the survey I should have included. Yeah, they are indeed 38.81 feet on Dagsworthy. They are 54.35 feet on the bay side and 60.13 feet on the ocean side or the east side. And then the rear dimension, where is the rear dimension? Oh,
It
yeah.
might be a little longer.
38, right, it's 38.8, but it's on the diagonal, so it's probably a little bit longer, but I don't see it on here.
And a typical 5,000 foot lot, 50 by 100.
50 by 100, right, right. So here are again, the quick check factors. Again, I'm going to say it for the record just because I like this case, Conway and Conway. Deciding an exceptional practical difficulty is decided by weighing the interests of the applicants against the interests of the public. The balancing of competing interests is the essence of the quick check test. And before we even get into these, just for a moment, I'd like you to just imagine scales and go, if this sat back 22 feet, what does that do to the rhythm and scale of the neighborhood? If the structure had to remain, sort of built as small as that original home that I showed you, the code compliant version, again, what does that do to the rhythm and scale if it's that small? And what is the effect on the owners if they're required to do a single bedroom and bathroom on the first floor, that sort of a construction in this area? And again, that size of construction compared to what's on either side of it, it's completely out of character with the neighborhood. So we're going to go through the factors, and again, I just ask that you keep weighing those interests. The exceptional practical difficulty here arises from the fact that the property is a substantially undersized lot, making it infeasible to improve the property with a residential single-family home consistent with other new home construction in Dewey Beach. So there's the four factors, and the first factor is the nature of the zone in which the property lies. The property is in the Resort Business District 3, RB3 zoning district, where residential mixed use and commercial uses are permitted. And again, this factor weighs in favor of granting the variance. This is a residential structure, which is a permitted use in the RB3 district. Second factor is the character of the immediate vicinity and the uses contained therein. Structures in the surrounding area include residential multi-floor dwellings considerably larger than the code compliant option and larger than the proposed construction. The code compliant option, remember that small one with the single bedroom on the first floor, the code compliant option and the code compliant option would be out of character with the immediate vicinity. The proposed option is in character with the immediate vicinity and the surrounding uses. Again, this is a rhythm and scale issue, so it is in character with the immediate vicinity, and therefore this factor also weighs in favor of granting the variances. The third factor is whether, if the restriction upon the applicant's property were removed, such removal would seriously affect such neighboring property and uses. The proposal has a front yard setback and rear yard setback consistent with Bayside properties on the south side of Dagsworthy Avenue, and it's exactly where the previous structure existed, and therefore granting of the requested relief would not seriously affect neighboring property, and therefore this factor also weighs in favor of granting the variance. And fourth and finally, whether if the restriction is not removed, the restriction would create hardship for the owner in relation to his efforts to make normal improvements in the character of that use of the property, which is a permitted use under the use provisions of the ordinance. Of course, this residential structure is a permitted use under the use restrictions, and the only question here is whether this is a normal improvement. The code compliant option allows for a single bedroom and a single bathroom home, which is not a normal improvement to the property. Homes in Dewey Beach routinely exceed the home proposed here. If the variance is not granted, the owners will be prohibited from making normal improvements to the property, significantly diminishing the use and enjoyment of the property as compared to typical properties in Dewey Beach. And this is really sort of the essence of this question. Is the code compliant option sort of a normal improvement And I submit that it's not a normal improvement in Dewey Beach. In Dewey Beach, it's not normal to have a one-bedroom, single bathroom, first floor. I know there are other properties that do, but the new construction, as things are going these days, this home that's being proposed is modest compared to a lot of other construction that's happening in Dewey Beach. And I just ask that you weigh the factors, in relation to new construction in this area, rhythm and scale along this street, and whether there's any real harm whatsoever to the neighbors or the community in general, as compared to the harm to these owners if they're not able to build a more reasonable home that they're proposing in this instance. And again, this is not self-created. The lot is severely undersized. Dagsworthy sort of presents an interesting situation in that it's got that notch and allows for sort of a built-in setback. This is a unique property, and remember, that's oftentimes we talk about the uniqueness of the property that supports the granting of variances. So again, this is a balancing. I hate going like this because every time I see somebody do that now, they do 6, 7. I'm like, don't do that. It's a balancing, right? And in this instance, I think the factors weigh in favor of granting a variance, and we respectfully request that you do grant these variances, and we're happy to answer any questions.
Question. So I get the front setback issue. Why the reason for the back setback when you're talking 2 feet? Can't plans be made to build a house within the 10-foot setback?
They could be. Like the question again, though, is that, so the answer to your question is yes. I mean, we could do both front and rear setback and have a very, very tiny structure.
I'm
Yeah,
specifically
so
talking about the rear. Say, let's hypothetically, let's say we granted the front setback.
Right.
Why would the rear setback need to be granted? I mean, it's 2 feet.
It is 2 feet. The rear setback allows for sort of standard size porches and decking. If you remove that 2 feet in the back, then something would have to shrink. And what we've got as a design is a pretty standard size for bathrooms, bedrooms, and all the like. And again, the rear setback shouldn't be found offensive in that it's no further setback than what the previous structure was. And the previous structure didn't seem to present any harm to the neighbors.
And when the owners bought this property, they knew these restrictions, right, before they tore it down and wanted to build?
I don't know the answer to that. We can ask them. I really don't know the answer to whether they knew the restrictions or not.
So I have a couple questions too. Just did we think about others, because we have had other properties on small lots like this that have built on the existing structure and then tiered the building. This is a really small lot, I would agree with you, but they've tiered it so that it's not all in the going into the setback. Are there any thoughts about that?
Not that I'm aware of, simply due to the really, I mean, if you look at
It's very small.
if we go back, Kate, if we could, to the code compliant version. And Doug, maybe I'll ask you to come up and talk about dimensions of the floor spaces.
Jim, just a clarification for me on the city's right-of-way there. The driveway is already sitting in the right-of-way, the city property, correct? And is there a need for that right-of-way? Is there some structural, is there something under the road that's a right-of-way? Is there?
So there's the owner of the property will either get 2 10-foot feet or 1 20-foot driveway entrance
In the right-of-way?
that goes from the road to their property.
Yeah.
Right? But there will be nothing built in that between the road and where the property line is.
Okay.
And it basically lines up where the telephone
Yeah.
poles approximately. So when you look at those pictures, if you want to get a good idea where the property line is, it's where
Yeah.
the telephone poles are located.
So then, I mean, even their parking spaces are in the right-of-way today, if I understand it. Just want to make sure.
So it's part of their driveway, they're legal non-conforming.
Yeah.
So their cars do stick out into the right of way. But again, it's been there, it's legal non-conforming.
And Glenn, in this structure, these 2 parking spaces are kind of where they are today, or
They
if
are-
you were to put them inside the property?
That's correct. They'd be inside the property beyond the existing parking that you're speaking to.
So it could actually, that structure that you're showing there could actually be bigger because they already have 2 parking spaces in the right of way. Is that correct?
It cannot be bigger, and Kate, if you go back, and the reason being is that, see the 22 BRL, that's a 22-foot building restriction line, that they'll be required to not erect any structure forward of that dashed red line.
Gotcha. Okay, thanks.
Mr. Warner, if you'd come forward, I think there's a question about dimensions. I forget who asked it. Did you ask, Madam Chair?
No, I was asking about the back, like I'm
Right,
saying
you just said
hypothetically,
feet like that.
even if we granted the front setback, why is the rear setback a practical difficulty for the dimensions of the home?
And Mr. Warner's under oath.
Yeah,
Do you want to speak at all to the code compliant version versus the?
I mean, I think I can answer the question about the, we looked at the structure that was there. And in terms of, we could keep front wall or 50% or whatever the amount is to keep there. And then without a variance, set back the second floor to another 20 feet. And in looking at that situation, we would be requesting a variance most likely to build that closer anyway. And the structure, in all candidness, we kind of deceive ourselves with these, let's keep a wall type of thing, and we just work around the rules. So in all candidness, we kind of approach this with more logic in this situation and just looked at it as, we're in the same footprint, we're asking to be in the same footprint that the home was in, and not kind of beat ourselves around with this 50% and keeping a bunch of wood and poor foundations, et cetera, and end up with something that looks kind of, if we set back the second floor, looks kind of kludged together a little bit candidly. So that was kind of our approach, and let's just go ahead, pursue the variance, and try and build a structure that fits more in with the streetscape.
and I think Rick asked about a third floor or a half a floor. I mean, is that part of the plan, or is it something that they're in the future? Because if that is, then we're right back here. For asking for
another
a variance,
variance,
for an addition, if we would approve. So I guess, like, what's the reasoning behind, like, a 2-story home at this point, if the intent is maybe on a later time to go for a partially bigger structure? And maybe I'm wrong, maybe I misunderstood what you said about that.
Yeah,
Go ahead.
I'm just going to clarify that we're requesting the variance both in the rear and in the front for the variance in the front and the variance in the rear to go up as high as the permitted height. So we would hope that when we come out of this meeting, if variances are granted, they'd be permitted to go up to the
Up to
height
that,
limit.
okay,
yeah.
that was because we were presented a 2-story type of floor plan, so that's why I was confused, I just wanted to make sure. I mean, obviously,
Without
the
clarifying.
ultimate plans, if the variance is granted, is up to the town of Dewey to approve the plans within any variance that we may grant or not grant, so I just wanted to make sure I was
So the
clear.
distinction is, like, in the case of the first variance that we considered, the request was to legalize the existing encroachment, not to change the boundary lines.
Right.
And here, they're asking to change the building envelope that would exist,
Right.
in-
And that's why I wanted to clarify what because like I said, we were presented a 2-story floor plan, so I was confused because
Yeah, we've had this before
Yes.
where
Mhm.
we
Yes.
build on existing structures and they want to go 3 stories up, but the second and the third floor are in the setbacks because the original structure was already in the setback, right? So they were grandfathered with that, but on the second and third floor, they were tiered so that they weren't so much in the setback. The setback is really around density, right? Both public, building, stormwater management, I think. So, not my legal opinion, but
No, I know, I just want to make sure we're all clear.
yeah, that's good.
What we're talking about.
So-
Okay.
Possibly 3 stories up.
Guys, do you have any other questions?
Julia, can I bring out a point?
Yes,
They are
please.
in a flood zone, so they're going to have to meet the flood zone requirements.
Of
for
course.
that, which may be a construction issue or a planning issue for the home. And the parking that they have proposed, I just want to make them understand that's a 9 by 18 for each one. So they have to squeeze that in also. So
Inside the lot line, not in the right of way.
that is correct.
Is that right, Jim?
Yeah.
That's correct.
Interesting.
And they're in a base flood, I believe in their base flood elevation 5 or 6, I'll double check on that. And they'll have to go 2 feet above that, and the height limit will be 32 feet above base flood elevation in 2.
And like I said, I mean, if whether we do or don't grant a variance, the plans still have to be approved by the town of Dewey Beach.
That's correct.
So that's,
We really don't have the.
that's off of our plates.
And they have to
For all the other
design,
things.
Jim, they have to design their building such that they can get access from ground level to the first floor within their building envelope.
That's correct.
Okay.
Right, thanks for that, Mr. Dedes. And we represent here that Mr. Warner's looked at those issues, and we have not identified any of those issues that we're not going to be able to comply with. And if there's a compliance issue, we'll be back here or revising plans, so.
Again, not our circus, not our monkeys. We just either grant or don't grant a variance. Okay, so
May I bring up Ms. Petrone?
yes, please.
Thank you.
And now you
Ms.
get to
Petrone
speak this
is
morning.
a Delaware lawyer. The
Oh,
question
well,
is,
then never
do you need to swear her because she's not here in her capacity?
I don't need to, but I'm going to do it anyway. Name and address, please.
Victoria Petrone from Wilmington, Delaware, and also 116 Daxworth.
Ms. Petrone, do you solemnly swear or affirm the testimony you give in this proceeding will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you.
Ms. Petrone, you've heard the comments I've made and the comments that Mr. Warner's made. Do you adopt those comments as your own testimony, and is there anything you'd prefer to change about those comments?
No.
Is there anything you'd like to add to the hearing tonight?
I just appreciate your consideration of the request, and we just hope to build within what is existing there. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You might, I don't know how many people are here for what reason, but you might want to ask for people in favor first.
Yeah,
before you
that's,
open
yeah,
it
I
up.
was gonna do that. Do I have anyone that is here live locally that would like to speak on behalf of the variance? I saw his hand first, sorry. He was straight in my eye line.
Name and address, please.
Alex Pires, 2 Dickinson Street, Dewey Beach.
Mr. Pires, do you solemnly swear or affirm the testimony given in this proceeding will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do. I just wanted to say briefly, I live here in Dewey Beach, and I don't know this couple, never met them, have not talked to them about it, and have not seen counsel in years, so I did not talk to them. I just read about it, and we are the largest landowner and have been for 40 years on this very same street. The lots that are at the end of this street, same block, same size, the 7 lots are ours. Also, the project across the street, I built all of that. And also, we have the liquor store and so forth in the street. And I used to live on Dagsworthy for 30 years. I would like to support this, and the reason is that house, which was there for a very long time, as you know, they could have left it just the way it was, come in, ask for a variance to go up and so forth, and gone through all the games that sometimes we have to go. I think what they did was more honest, and I really think we need to have a decent-sized home there and not a 500-square-foot odd-looking box. I think we all look at property values, and we want neighbors who are happy. I don't know these folks, but I'm sure they're nice people. They wouldn't be here otherwise. We don't really have any not nice people in Dewey.
They're only visitors.
Yeah, they're the visitors.
They don't stay long.
Yeah.
So, in all seriousness, I think this newer home will be good for our street, good for our neighbors. My son also lives on Dagsworthy. He called me earlier about it, and he supports it also. I know he can't speak for another person, but I just want to say I hope you'll have some compassion for them and help them out. Thank you.
Thank you, Alex. Ma'am, you wanted to speak as well?
So right now, we're asking for testimony in favor of the application, and then we'll ask for any testimony in opposition. So since you're at the, I'm going to let you introduce yourself, but it sounds like you're here to oppose the application, and we're not going to make you sit back down. So give us your name and address.
My name is Kathleen Stasek. I'm one of the owners of 105 Bayside, Unit 6.
Okay. Basic, is that?
Bayside.
Bayside
I'm
Court.
sorry,
Bayside
your
Court.
last name, how do you?
Kath Stazik,
Stazik.
Yes. Can you
Ms.
spell that?
Stazik,
Staszak.
Oh, thank you.
Ms. Stazik, do you solemnly swear or affirm the testimony given in this proceeding will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes. I do. Just want to clarify, a little confused, that the new structure will be on the same line as the existing structure, or the
That is what
structure
they
that
tell
was
us.
returned.
That is what they
was
tell
re-
us.
Okay. Only for the sheer fact that we've seen that lot flood numerous times over the past 30 years that we've owned the house. And want to make sure that that's all been taken into consideration. There were 2 gullies at the edge of the driveway that have been done away with when the house was destroyed, the structure was removed. Also, the power lines that run along the edge of Dagsworthy are right outside the house. So, anything else? No? Okay. And, just want to clarify.
Could you finish your thought about the power line?
Well, the power lines with the house, the new structure, will it, where is it going to be with those power lines? Because the power lines are so close. With the porch and the deck.
I think that's what we clarified, that the new structure even, and I asked that specific question, that the porch would not go any further out than what the old structure had been. So it'll be porch and then the main part of the
Building.
house. And again, our job is to decide whether or not to give a variance. Then it's up to the town to approve the actual building plans.
Yes.
So that is up to Dawn and Mr. Dedes to approve those building plans. So obviously, the flooding and all those things will be taken into consideration.
Is the porch single story? Do we know
So
that?
I think based on the plans that the floor plans that we were given, the porch on the first floor and a deck on the second floor. But no further out than.
But no air-conditioned space behind it?
Then it would, Mr., correct me if I'm wrong, so that the porch only goes out as far as the existing line from the old structure. So there'll be porch space and then the air-conditioned living space behind that, behind the porch, and then on the second story, a deck.
Correct.
Okay, just wanted to make sure we're all clear.
All right, thanks.
My question is, the porch is at ground level.
You don't have to be on.
Again, have to comply with the building.
Building code.
Right, so one of the things about this property, because it is in a flood zone, it will be required to be elevated, and that goes to the flooding question, and that will help with the flooding question. So the porch, desirably would be at ground level, but probably due to this elevation, will probably, I guess you can do 2 to 3 feet elevated, yeah.
Elevated from the ground level, but it won't need to meet the base flood plus 2 elevation.
Correct.
Because it's a porch as opposed to finished space. Okay.
Does that
make sense?
Yes, that makes sense to me.
Makes
So,
sense.
okay.
And I have one more question. I'm not sure whether it's appropriate for this meeting or something else. On the existing property, we've had issues with the previous owner that went nowhere, couldn't talk to them. There are trees that have been cut down, but the roots are still there, the stumps are still there, and the roots have grown under.
That's not for this meeting.
Okay, all right, thank you. Okay, thank you.
Yeah. That is not, but thank you, I appreciate it. Maybe talk to Mr. Zolberg, our town manager, about that. Is there anyone else present, physically present, that would like to speak with regard,
Like in favor?
kind of in favor of the variance?
It's just a question.
Yes. You still gotta go.
What's your name?
Oh, yeah.
I just watched her.
Watch your head there.
Okay, Chris, easy.
My name is Christine Vogt. I live at 104 Bayside Court.
Ms. Vos, do you solemnly swear or affirm the testimony given in this proceeding will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes, I do. I have a question about the parking issue. Can we pull that slide up for a second with the line?
Mhm.
The other, I'm sorry, the street
That one?
one,
That one?
Oh, the street?
the street one. I just have a question with that here, how I know when we've been here, property 106, oh really? Yeah, 106. That property at one point was grandfathered into Walton Norman, who lived there for years, and when they moved, then they moved the cinder blocks. From looking at their description of the property, then will that become town parking as well then, at that point?
Well,
I mean,
This is
just
that
saying,
big
these people
signs on
who are
Stoller.
buying
Yeah,
these
you got
properties.
So they get a 20-foot driveway, right, which would give them a right of way to come in 20 feet, or they
Right.
get two 10 feet. And it's a small lot, so we would take that under consideration when we look at their plans. Correct me, Jim, if I'm wrong.
Right, I don't think they would
I don't think
have,
he's there.
I don't think they would have room to do anything other than have a 10-foot or maybe a slightly larger access point that serves the two
parking spots.
the two parking spots that they're proposing along the right side of the house, if you will. And to answer your question, what that would mean would be, with the exception of their driveway entrance,
Right.
the area along the front of the
Right,
lot
in their front yard, wow.
would be available for public
For
parking.
public parking. Okay, I just wanted to clarify that, because I know it changed
Yeah, I mean,
years ago.
yeah, and I know, obviously there has to be a way for them to get into their parking area, but
Right away.
And they
rest
did
of
the
it,
same
right.
109, right, okay.
Mr. Zolper is correct. We would work with the property owner to find a solution for that. We understand the circumstances.
thanks, Jim.
Yeah, because today it kind of looks like their parking spaces are in that sort of right of way. If I look at it today, it's very confusing. But the parking will be down the side of the
So,
house.
so basically, they really don't have off-street parking, which they're required to
Today,
have.
exactly.
So it might be that the town looks favorably upon their use of those spaces for parking, and I say they, I mean the prior owner, but it's not private parking.
So when they go to build this, they're gonna have to show that they have some off-street parking, which they showed in one of the
I see,
slides.
yeah.
The dimensions for that have to be 9 by 18.
Right,
And we'll look at that, Jim will look at that, and if it doesn't meet that, then we won't approve the plan.
right. And that's what I've been trying to, our goal is to
Exactly.
just
It's a means
approve or
and a
not,
time.
approve or not approve the variance, then it's up to the town to approve
Decide.
whatever construction plans that, based
I
on,
mean, they're gonna need
Yeah.
room to open a door to the car on
Yeah.
the house side and get in and out.
right,
They're
right,
gonna park but can't get out.
right. So, is there anybody else physically present that would like to speak on behalf of approving the variance? Okay, I'm seeing nobody. Is there anybody present in the room that would like to speak against the variance being approved? I'm seeing nobody. Kate, do we have anybody online that has requested? Okay. I have.
So we have some letters, you're gonna.
I do, yes, I'm gonna.
You don't have to
right
read
now.
the whole thing, but you can summarize if you want.
Yeah, so I have we've gotten 2 emails, the town got 2 emails with regard to, this request. The first is from, Stan Underwood and Stacy Longenecker. They live, their neighbors, I've never known, it says
Right behind the
address
lot.
known as Dover Street, which I've never heard of.
It's right behind the lot.
Oh, it's right behind, okay. Adjacent to this residence. And they've already experienced worsening, I'm gonna go ahead and read after they introduce themselves. We've already experienced worsened flooding in our yard from parcel 54, which is the parcel in question. Since the original structure was demolished, we have legitimate concern that decreasing the BRL along this border from 10 to 8 feet will worsen incursion of floodwaters from parcel 54 to our property, as there are insufficient room for grading and to control runoff. We also note from the plans for parcel 54 that there's little to no room for storage envisioned. The requested variance would make for even less room for sheds or other storage outbuildings that are commonplace in this beach town. Reducing the BRL along this border from 8 to 10 would likely place any such storage right on our property line. We note that the plan calls for 3 bedrooms, each with a full bathroom. Knowing the small lot size at the time of purchase, the applicants could either reduce the footprint of the planned build slightly or consider proposing a variance to make the northernmost BRL to be 1.2 feet from the property line instead of 3.2 as proposed in the current variance request. In view of the current established building lines as evidenced in slide 16, and indeed the previous dwelling's footprint, such a building would not be out of place if it were 1.2 feet from the property line. We therefore suggest slide 9, request be amended to 20.8 in the variance of the front of the property and 0 variance in the rear of the property to allow preservation of the 10-foot boundary line in the rear of the property. This would provide a little more additional green space between us and our prospective new neighbors and would not affect the sides of the current building envelope of the BRLs. The other letter is from Craig and Caroline Longenecker. So it's a second email from them. We are writing to formally express our concern and lack of support for the applicant's request for the 2-foot variance to reduce the 10-foot setback of the back property. The existing 10-foot setback requirement is reasonable and appropriate and plays an important role in preserving the quality of life for neighboring residents. Maintaining adequate space between properties supports privacy, access to light and air, and overall livability, key factors that are especially important in a compact coastal community such as Dewey Beach. While we understand the applicant's concern that the size of the subject property may present challenges for constructing a single-family home, the lot size and applicable zoning requirements were known at the time of purchase. Additionally, the existing home on the property was a single-family structure that complied with the established setbacks. As such, the circumstances do not appear to constitute a hardship that would justify a variance. Granting this variance would also allow structures to be built closer to our shared property line on the south side of the property, including potential additional or expanded storage structures. This increased density raises concerns regarding visual impact, noise, and the cumulative effects of overdevelopment in an already limited space as noted. Additionally, we are concerned about the increased potential for flooding and drainage issues associated with the regarding of the subject property. Dewey Beach, namely Dagsworthy, is particularly vulnerable to flooding. The changes that reduce setback buffers or alter grading are a concern and could adversely affect neighboring properties. The current setback helps mitigate these risks by allowing for water absorption and proper runoff management. Taken together, these factors demonstrate that the existing zone requirements serve an important purpose and that no undue hardship has been demonstrated to warrant a reduction in the setback for the rear of the property specifically. For these reasons, we respectfully request that the board deny the application of the 2-foot variance and uphold the current 10-foot setback requirement. Thank you for your time. So those are the two, and it looks so, anyway. So I guess, I misspoke. So Craig and Caroline Longenecker is the one I just read. Stacy Longenecker was, and Stan Underwood was the first. Sorry. Longenecker is not a normal, so I was confused for a second.
Sounds so much
Yeah, it's
alike.
not
I'm
Johnson.
like, wow.
Like me. Anyway. Okay, so those, so I have no one online that wants to speak and no one else? Yes.
Responded.
Glenn.
It's just because I hadn't read those.
Sorry,
No problem. The only thing I want to mention is that you read 2 that had Longenecker last names for the property behind. One of the concerns is flooding. I just spoke with Mr. Warner, and he confirms that whatever the flooding situation is now, it's only going to get better after this design because of the new standards that have to be met. So whatever the flooding concerns are, they can rest assured that they're going to get better post-development. Secondly, the first one you read spoke of the 2 feet in the back, and they said they'd have no problem with the structure sliding forward, so that there would be so they didn't express a concern about the size of the structure in and of itself. They only concerned that rear part. Sliding the structure forward then takes us out of the streetscape, and now we're out in front of all of the other buildings that have developed along that property, and so that would kind of harm the streetscape. Secondarily, we didn't ask for that in this variance request, so I don't think you have the authority to approve moving it forward like that. just for whatever it's worth.
Well, and Glenn, so, I mean, I know you've already mentioned this, but I just want to be clear that the prior existing footprint of the house would have been 2 feet into the setback.
Correct.
Correct? Okay, so it's, again, you're not asking to increase the footprint of the former house,
Right,
right? So we're clear on that? Okay,
Correct.
Just want to make
and
sure.
we do have the survey, if you'd like me to submit a copy for the record, so you have it, just so you can see where the prior structure
I
existed.
just, as long as,
Okay.
you know.
Okay.
Glenn, while
I
you're-
trust your word.
Just one more question.
Yes.
Dimensions of the porch, is that?
Dimensions of the porch?
Just rough, it doesn't have.
Yeah, which is,
How deep is it? You don't
Yeah,
care
so
about.
I don't
You
care
don't
about
you don't
width.
care about the width.
How deep
what's-
before you
yeah,
start?
10
Well,
feet,
it varies.
yeah.
Yeah, it has a,
In the shallow end, how about that?
There's a slight L shape
Yeah.
to it, and I don't have a scale with me right here, but we're approximately, I think, 6 feet in the narrowest, going back to about 8 feet. So as you mentioned, the face of the proposed structure is actually further back than the face of the blue structure that was previously there.
Thank you.
thanks.
Jim, do you have anything to add?
The only thing that I would add is that this is all proposed. We have not seen finalized plans. So things may change and
Correct.
conform with the town's requirements as far as setbacks and so forth. And whatever you all approve, whatever we'll do is make sure that we meet all the setbacks. They meet the setbacks and requirements. And they may have to make adjustments that maybe they haven't thought about at this point in time.
Right. I appreciate that. And again, I will say for the third or fourth time that our job is to either allow or deny the variance, and then it's up to you all to approve the final plans for the building structure, which is out of our hands and into the town's hands. Correct?
Correct.
yes.
Okay. So we're not here to approve any plans tonight. We're just here to decide whether or not to allow the variance from the setbacks on both the front and back end of the property.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so is anybody else present, before I close the public meeting, would like to speak either for or against the approval of the variance? And I'm seeing nobody. I'm just getting a lot of stares. It is 7:30, so we've been here for a little, although this is not our longest meeting by far. So I'm gonna go ahead and close the public meeting at this time. Any thoughts, comments, wanna discuss?
My biggest concern is the face of the property being out of line with all the others the only way. And if it fits in with the other structure, 2 feet back and back, it will still fit in there, so. I thought it would come up to the street.
Right.
That's what one.
I know,
But
it
that was
kind
the
of looked
BRL.
like it, but it was
But that was
just.
the BRL line,
Exactly, because
not
of the
the,
right of way.
yeah, okay. So,
And for me, I'm like, to buy it as a small lot, knowing that it's a small lot, I don't think a house can be on this property be compared to a 50 by 100 lot as a reasonable size, so it shouldn't be, we can build the same size house as a 50 by 100, and I think they are. It's, if I have the FAR correct, it's somewhere around 22. Yeah, I forget, but it's
So you feel like there's an
modest.
exceptional practical difficulty to build on this lot because of the lot size
I think,
being smaller?
yeah, it kind of does weigh that way, but it's, these setbacks are set for a reason. We developed the setbacks over time, right, so that we reduce density, we have things for water, et cetera. So just because the old one was already in the setbacks, I don't know if we should say, oh, then it's a guarantee that the new one should be as well. I would be in favor of probably the front and not the back. I don't know if that is an option for us.
Well, I mean,
At this
there
point, to
Are there
take
two
one.
are
variances?
two
One's
variants
the
under,
back and one-
Oh, that's
so
right,
they
there
are
it's-
two
yeah.
separate votes.
Correct.
They are two separate votes. So that is definitely the, and that's why I kind of asked the question about the back setback. Like why do the back if, hypothetically, if we granted the front, and it's staying in line with
With the
The
current
other
front
build.
of the other two properties, and it's not
Because this is a
encroaching.
very small lot.
It is a small
Mm-hmm.
lot. With the back,
But I think it's consistent with the rest of the neighborhood, that's.
right. Hey, Kate, can you pull up that one slide that kind of shows the property lines? Thank you, please.
You mean the red,
The red, that has the red lines that shows,
yeah.
because I mean, if they're staying in the footprint, I guess that, and I asked the question because
Yeah.
but if you look at the property lines versus the property, it's still kind of forward of it, even though it's
Right.
encroaches the 2 feet in, so,
It's like 2 feet based on their drawing, I think.
Right.
right, so. I'm definitely okay with the front line as we're talking about it, because it does stay,
Within,
but, but, the 2 feet, it's like, meh.
I think
But I'm also, if it's in the footprint of the old house, I don't know, I have mixed emotions about
yeah.
granting the backline variance, so that is, kind of where.
I'm
I
thinking concerned about flooding, but again, the overall
again-
plans have to take that into consideration. So,
Right, and the
Yeah.
grading of the property and
Exactly.
the rebuilding and all that stuff will be determined by the town and
And
not
have to
us,
meet
and
code.
government. And the code, and the building
and
code.
they have to be good as far as the grading goes and stuff like that.
So, so yeah, I have mixed emotions about the back line, but I'm okay with the front based on the character of the neighborhood.
Do you want to ask for a motion on the
Yeah,
front?
that's what I was just gonna do. So let's do this one at a time.
All right.
So, do I have a motion with regard to the first, request, which is to extend 18.8 feet into the 22-foot yard setback? Front setback. Do I have a motion?
Motion to approve?
Okay, based on our discussion?
Yes.
Is that sufficient, Fred, or do you want more on the motion?
Well,
When it meets the,
the motion's okay, but when you vote, I would ask you to,
you want a reason?
when you vote.
To give
yeah.
reason.
I
Do I have
do.
a
The
second?
court will want one, that's for sure.
Yes, they will.
I would motion to second, and for the reasons, I think it keeps with the character of that front build line. This is a very unique situation where it is very difficult to improve this property without it.
Right.
Without the variance, sorry, given the right of way and how far it is from the road. I think, so, there's exceptional practical difficulty to that.
That was one of my concerns, is that the front of the property would be extended to the road, that's what it looked like, but I didn't know that was the BRL instead of, so that's fine by me, so there is an exceptional practical difficulty there. Again, like he said, in order for them to have a house there, they have to have a variance to make it a house, instead of a fishing shack, which was there before.
And I would agree that there is an exceptional practical difficulty, and based on the character of the neighborhood, and I don't see any effect on the neighboring properties, given that their front lines will be in line with this property. And I think it would, based on the size of the property being smaller, it would be a hardship if the variance were not granted. So therefore, I agree with that. So all in favor?
Aye.
So the first variance is granted with regard to the front setback. So the back setback, which I think we're all a little more mixed about. Let's discuss.
I mean, I don't know if they need that there, I mean, it will be very close to the property behind them.
And that's where I guess I'm confused, because I can't.
I know is that was in the 8 foot, that was 2 foot into the 8 foot setback?
Correct. So where the
7.
prior building was, so where the red line is,
Yeah, that's your BRL, right?
right, so the property right behind, which is 90, which are the folks that
Right.
objected.
Right,
Um,
but to me,
But it's not, they don't completely abut them, it's kind of a catty corner.
yeah,
And I think with the previous, I think we heard that it was 7.8 feet setback, so not quite 8 feet.
Right, and now we're talking about 8 foot versus into the 10-foot setback. So it's,
They went 8 foot into the 10 foot, or 2 foot?
no, 2
Two.
foot.
They wanna make it an 8
yes,
foot.
And
right,
eight
right,
to one
right,
at 8
right,
foot.
right. So it's a 2 foot difference.
But I'm not seeing a similar practical difficulty for that one because it's the backyard and it's kind of squaring, by this design, it almost looks like it would square it up
Right.
and be less dense.
And that's why I asked the question too, because it's, you're redesigning a house 2 feet,
Right,
not a huge height, so,
yeah, we could just make the porch smaller.
yeah. Right, or whatever, redo the designs.
So on that one,
So with regard to the back setback, the request for the variance with regarding extending it 2 feet into the 10-foot setback, do I have a motion?
I would decline on that.
We move to
Move to decline that.
Denied.
deny, that would be the word. It's like, we've been here a while. Deny the variance based on our
Discussion.
and the fact you don't see it as an exceptional practical difficulty.
Not at all.
Do I have a second?
I would second and agree, I don't see it as an exceptional practical difficulty. I think they can still make normal improvements without that.
Right.
And I would agree. So all in favor to deny the back setback variance? Aye. So that motion is carried, and so you got half and half, people. Sorry. So,
18.9.
right. So now that we have had our 3 things, do we have any comments before we adjourn?
I do not. Do we have any others in the pipeline?
We do not that I'm aware. Kate, do we have any others in the pipeline? Not, so hopefully not until after the first of the year. So can I have a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn?
Second.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.